Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to That Jaguar Guy, and today we are going to be taking a look at my free agency outlook for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2023. A lot of notable players becoming free agents this year, and I'm going to be doing a mix of what I believe we should do and I believe they will do, like a prediction slash opinion for each of these main free agents and some lesser known free agents too. I'm also going to be looking at some potential cap casualties that will have to be cut, restructured, etc. And some potential signings that the Jacksonville Jaguars could do to elevate their team in some very key position of need. So, without further ado, I'm just going to hop right into this with probably the most notable free agent on this list. We got Evan Engram, in my opinion, our top priority. I'm going to re-sign him. I don't know if there's a single guy on the face of the earth that's, cheers to the Jaguars, that wants Evan Engram to walk. Is there a possibility that he walks? There always is. He's made it clear he wants to stay in Jacksonville. Scheme fits really well. Had a great game. Or not great game, great season with the Jags. It's only up from here, in my opinion, with Evan Engram. I've talked about him a good bit. And yeah, it's very clear that I want him to stay. And I think that Jacksonville's going to keep Evan Engram. He was just too good of a player in the scheme last year to just let walk easily. I don't see a lot of teams offering him big money contracts, especially with guys like Dalton Schultz becoming free agents, guys like Irv Smith Jr. becoming free agents. I don't think that Evan Engram is going to be offered big money because tight end is a very replaceable position. But on the other hand, I would rather stick with Engram than gamble on another tight end. Now, there is a potential option later in this video that I'll get into, which I'll get into that there. There's also draft one. I've seen a lot of Michael Mayer going around, Darnell Washington. I don't mind the pick of Darnell Washington, but wasting a first-round pick on a tight end is not a good option, in my opinion. Evan Engram, though, should resign. He's a big difference maker on this team. Should be the top priority for the Jaguars. If he doesn't resign, there's a potential option later in this video, and there's always the draft. I don't mind Darnell Washington, like I've said before, but I would rather Evan Engram stay because we know what we have with him. We know he is a difference maker, and him and Trevor's bond or chemistry is going to continue to improve, and I think he'll definitely go for possibly 1,000 yards in a Pro Bowl next year. Who knows? Next, we've got Marvin Jones Jr. It was very solid, but I think should let him walk. It's very simple. Calvin Ridley will be coming back for us next year. If he doesn't, then I'm pretty sure the entire city of Jacksonville will go to Roger Goodell themselves and riot. It's going to be clear that the wide receiver one is going to be Calvin Ridley, then Christian Kirk, then Zay Jones. And honestly, Marvin Jones Jr. will not have any attention, and he's on a good there's no point in paying him more money to stay as a wide receiver 4. Yeah, it might not be that much money, but we kind of need all the money we can get. So letting Marvin Jones Jr. walk is a solid option, especially because teams like the Bears, teams like the Packers, teams like the Giants could potentially sign Marvin Jones Jr. to a bigger contract than the Jacksonville Jaguars would, simply because their wide receiver core keeps getting better and better, and there's no need for someone like Marvin Jones. Moving on to the offensive line, we got Jawaan Taylor. I'm going to let him walk. Here's why. He's probably the top, or one of the top offensive tackle free agents in the draft, or not in the draft, this year in free agency. And he's going to be highly sought after, especially for teams with an offensive line that needs help. But Cam Robinson will be coming back from injury. We also have Walker Little, who knows what he's doing. He's been very clear that he is a viable starter for this team. Even outplayed Cam Robinson. So we'll be getting 2 quality tackles next year. Jawaan Taylor, it seems almost like a waste to give him money when we have Walker Little. We could possibly get someone like Antoine Harrison in the first round. And you have someone like Cam Robinson coming off IR. Jawaan Taylor is one of our best linemen, but I think another team will be more likely to give him more money than what Jacksonville is willing to do. keep in mind, Jacksonville is around 30-something million over the cap. They're not in the prettiest spot when it comes to handing out big contracts. We did that last year. And they have the 3rd worst cap situation in the NFL right now. So, money is scarce. So, giving out these huge contracts is not going to be likely. And I know it sucks to see these good players go. I want everyone to stay. Like, there's not a player on here that's a free agent that I wouldn't be, like, mad if they stayed on the team. But it's the harsh reality of Jaguars aren't in the best cap space. They don't have the most, like, ideal situation when it comes to free agency. A lot of other teams want to have a lot of cap space and want to give out good money to these young studs that we are building on our team, like Jawaan Taylor. So I feel like he'll go to a team like Chicago, maybe. They need some good offense. Maybe the Bengals even. I mean, Bengals got, I think, a good amount of cap. Jawaan Taylor would probably be a good fit there, too. So, see a lot of teams pursuing him. I just don't think we have the money to repay him. Now, it would be nice to keep him, but I don't think it's the end of the world if Jawaan Taylor leaves, since we have Cam Robinson and Walker Little on standby if we need it. So, my prediction for this is Jawaan Taylor will walk in free agency. This is a tough one, because these two kind of go hand in hand. We got Arden Key and DAWANE SMOOT, or DAWAN SMOOT, whatever his first name is. I don't really know how to say it. I think it's just, I'm just gonna call him SMOOT. I'm gonna go walk for Arden Key. He's very clear he wants to stay in Jacksonville. I know that. But that means he might take a lower contract. That's fair. But I feel like Smoot, over his entire career in Jacksonville, has been very consistent. 5 to 6 sacks since, like, his rookie season. He's been more consistent than Arden Key. Arden Key did have a breakout year this year in Jacksonville, which, I mean, he served us great. I just feel like between him and Smoot is the better option. Homegrown talent here in Jacksonville. He was drafted in, like, 2017. Has been a quality edge rusher for us. I believe he's an edge rusher. I might be wrong by that. He is an edge rusher. We also have guys like Roy Robertson Harris, who could always fill in that spot for Arden Key. I mean, Fadukasi. I don't like Fadukasi, but I mean, he's there too. Always get an edge rusher in the draft if we have to. And I like the idea of keeping DAWANE SMOOT. He's going to be, I think he might be injured for the beginning of this year, or like next season. But this is probably the hardest decision out of anything in this free agency video, because I want to keep both, and I almost put resign for both, but I'm trying to be a little bit realistic here in the fact that we can't keep everyone. If they do resign Arden Key and DAWANE SMOOT, then by God, I'm the happiest man on earth. They can get Arden. The main 3 that I want to keep is Arden Key, DAWANE SMOOT, and Evan Engram. If we can get all 3 of those to re-sign, that's incredible. Is it realistic? A little, maybe, but I want to think for the best. I want to, or prepare for the worst, and accept the fact between DAWANE SMOOT and Arden Key, I would rather keep DAWANE SMOOT, and that leads me, DAWANE SMOOT, I want him to re-sign. He does have the injury, and it's a tough choice, but DAWANE SMOOT, he's a beast. I mean, he's been very consistent, and I feel like we can't let that consistency go to waste by letting him walk in free agency. We have an edge rusher who's been very solid, putting up 5+ sacks throughout consecutive years, or 5 or more sacks in consecutive years. It's going to be very hard to let someone like that walk in favor of someone who came here, I think, like, literally this year and put up 5 sacks. Would it be nice to keep both? Absolutely. I want to keep both so badly. They're both incredible players. But at the end of the day, I'm a mean old man. Not even that old. I'm like high school, but I'm a mean person, and I'm preparing for the worst, which is most likely Key walks, Smoot stays. Into the cuts. First one is Shaquille Griffin. Saves $13.1 million in cap. Easy cut, in my opinion. This is the easiest cut. Another cap casualty. He hasn't been the most ideal cornerback for Jacksonville. He had 23 solo tackles this year, which is not good. No interceptions, no forced fumbles, only 4 passes deflected. Last year, had 36 tackles, 1 forced fumble. He's got to get cut. We need better in the position. If he does, I mean, it saves us $13.1 million. That's a lot of money to save for someone who's been mediocre at best in the cornerback position. In a draft class where there's so many good cornerbacks, keeping SHAQUILL Griffin is kind of a dumb idea. That $13.1 million could be used to give contracts to people like DAWUANE, SMOOT, Evan ENGRAM, hell, even ARDEN or what's his name, John Taylor, or giving money to free agents that we could sign for the future. I feel this is an easy cut, SHAQUILL Griffin. I thought about saying to cut Fodokasi, but I think we could keep him for like a depth player, to be honest. Like, because we need depth on the edge rusher position. I feel like, especially if we're going to get rid of ARDEN, we shouldn't cut Fodokasi, in my opinion. Chassian, yeah, he's another easy cut, in my opinion. He's another who just also a bust for us. Saves $4.2 million. Again, more money that could be used for a lot other players. He had 7 solo tackles, 1 sack this year. Year prior had 1 sack and 20 tackles. Rookie year had 12 solo tackles and 1 sack. Just cut him now. Saves a good amount of money. And just any amount of money we could use is definitely needed. At linebacker, I mean, it would be nice in the linebacker position to have more depth, because Travon Walker, we don't know if he's going to pan out or not, but I like my odds with Travon Walker over someone like Chassian. Travon Walker at least has some upside to him, so yeah. Moving on, RAYSHAWN Jenkins. I thought about this one a lot. I've mentioned before how I think cutting him would be I guess it'd be fine. But I kind of feel like restructuring him is a safer bet. Simply because he played really good for us near the end of the year. There's a couple games I don't think we win without him. That Dallas game comes to mind. The forced fumble comes to mind. He was mediocre throughout like the whole year, but near the end he really came in some big moments. He's got a hefty bit of a contract though. His cap hits around for next year is like $10,700,000, and dead cap's at $4 million. So his yearly cash is gonna be like $8 million, something like that. I don't really know how the cap hit or the cap works. It looks like a pretty interesting contract though. Becomes a free agent 2025. So he's getting more money next year. I feel like we restructure him, save a bit of money, because I mean he was pretty mediocre. This was I think the second toughest decision, because on one hand I'm like, oh, cut RAYSHAWN Jenkins. I mean, but the safety position's so scarce for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's crazy. We got Andre Cisco, Andrew Wingard, RAYSHAWN Jenkins. I mean, Andrew Wingard, it was alright. 1 interception, 1 pass deflect, 1 forced fumble. But compared to like RAYSHAWN Jenkins with 3 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, 12 passes deflected, 73 solo tackles, it's night and day between both of them. Yeah, we can get some free safety free agents, like signed-wise, which I'll get to that. But we gotta keep RAYSHAWN at least till he becomes an undrafted free agent, in my opinion. I feel like I feel like next year might be a make or break year for RAYSHAWN Jenkins. Simply because this year he showed up near the end of the year. Hopefully he can play like he did at the end of the year through a whole season. If so, that's incredible. That's great. We got also Andre Cisco, free safety. He had 3 interceptions, 10 passes deflected. He's alright this year, in my opinion. And then behind him we got Daniel Thomas with 5 solo tackles. That's it. I mean, the depth is not there with safety. So cutting RAYSHAWN Jenkins, not the wisest decision in my opinion. Restructuring him, saving a bit of money is. If they can't come to terms with that, is it better to keep him or cut him? I don't know. Depends on what their plan is. If they want to go sign someone else, another free safety, cut him. If they want to... I mean, if they don't want to get a free safety and they want to use that money from him for something else, be my guest, but it better pan out, because you don't cut someone like RAYSHAWN Jenkins, who put up a forced fumble in a must-win Week 18 game and got 2 interceptions against Dallas, which was an incredible game. He had probably the best play this year for the Jaguars, so it's going to be interesting that happens with RAYSHAWN Jenkins. My prediction, though, is he stays. Possible restructure, though. We got some other just backups and just other players, I guess. CJ Beathard. I don't know how to say his name. CJ, backup quarterback, very solid backup in my opinion. Re-signing him, solid backup behind Trevor. Dan Arnold, weak at the tight end position. Re-signing Evan Engram and Dan Arnold is a good option, because Arnold, he showed up in a couple moments. He wasn't bad. Chris Manhertz, I'm going to go with a walk for Chris. I mean, we have 3 tight ends. It's unrealistic to think that we keep all 3 of them. And between Dan Arnold and Chris Manhertz, I think Arnold is the better tight end. Trey Herndon is an interesting one. Cornerback. I believe Herndon is a cornerback. If I got my notes right. Yeah, he is. He's behind Darius Williams, Tyson Campbell. He had 1 forced fumble, 5 passes deflected. He hasn't been the greatest for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has 0 interception, or he got 3 in 2019. Good for him, I guess. But he's kind of been digressing, in my opinion. So just getting rid of him. Don't worry about paying him some extra money. And most likely we're getting at least 1 cornerback in the draft, so not that best. Andrew Wingard, I still think we re-sign him. Again, depth on the safety position is... we need that right now. So Andrew Wingard, he needs to stay. Corey Peters, I did say he should walk. He's a defensive player. I can't remember if he's a lineman or a defensive end. Corey Peters is a nose tackle. So yeah, I say just don't worry about paying Peters. In my opinion, just not the greatest player. What did he got? He got 11 solo tackles this year in his career. He's also freaking 34 years old. He's an old dude, and not much to really say about him. He hasn't been the greatest player in his career. So 32 years old, very old. So just don't worry about paying someone like that, who's like a 3rd stringer and backup. Adam Godis, walk again. Godis is a defensive end. He's also 30 years old. He got 1.5 sacks this year, which is not bad. 10 solo tackles, though. But throughout his career so far, he's just not been the greatest player. So don't worry about paying him. Worry about getting some other players instead. Defensive end, I don't think you need to keep many of the backups for that either. So those are just some like very basic. There's a bunch of other free agents that are like practice squad players and whatnot. I don't really care. Those are just some of the main ones I noticed. I'm going to move on now to some of the free agent signings that the Jacksonville Jaguars could make. We got Irv Smith Jr. to start things off. Tight end for the Vikings. He wasn't bad, in my opinion. If Ingram doesn't resign, he's a viable option, in my opinion. He played interesting with the Vikings. He was a little bit overhyped this year, in my opinion. A lot of people thought he was going to go off with Kirk Cousins. TJ Hawkinson kind of came in there and screwed things up for him. So I don't think he's going to re-sign with the Vikings since they have TJ Hawkinson. So another viable option for him is the Jags. And I don't think he'll be that much money. Maybe on a 1-year deal, kind of like Ingram this year, if he doesn't re-sign. Next up, we got Will Hernandez. Again, if Jawan Taylor does not re-sign, we already have Cam Robinson and Walker Little. But, I mean, we still need depth in the tackle position. And even if Jawan Taylor does re-sign, I do think Will Hernandez is still a fine option. I'm just thinking for the worst case scenario. Jawan Taylor leaves, Walker Little Cam Robinson, and Will Hernandez would be a very solid trio of offensive tackles. Definitely won't have to worry about drafting one then. We can focus on other positions. Byron Murphy Jr. runs a couple of cornerbacks. Byron Murphy Jr. is a very solid young cornerback. Let me look up Byron Murphy's stats real quick because I believe they were very solid. I've seen a lot of people say that the Jags should get him. I agree. This year, not really the best year, in my opinion. But he did have a season where he put up 4 interceptions, which was the year prior to that. 64 solo tackles last year. 0.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. I mean, it was a great season, 2021. 2022, a little bit of a down year. Kind of, yeah, actually a really big down year. I mean, the Cardinals just overall did not have a good season. 36 total tackles this year. I don't know why I said 7 assists. 0 interceptions. 4 passes deflected. I mean, his 2021 season, though, was insane. I feel like we take the upside on Byron Murphy Jr. This is if I had to pick one player on this list to go ahead and just write the check on, Byron Murphy Jr. is the one I would choose. Great fit with Campbell. He could play outside and inside, I noticed. So we need an inside corner. I realize that now after saying that we should take Joey Porter Jr. and Kaylee Ringo for cornerback when Tyson Campbell's an outside corner as well, but what do I know? Not much, apparently. So Byron Murphy Jr. is a solid option, especially if we're going to take someone like Joey Porter Jr. or Kaylee Ringo. We have that inside corner who can play really well. Rock Ya-Sin, another solid cornerback. Not a lot of money, just adding to the depth chart. Cornerback is something we need, and he is a very cheap option at that position, in my opinion. Moving on, we got probably I'll say Jesse Bates for last. Taylor Rapp. He's a very solid young safety. This is another pick that I really like, even if we don't cut RAYSHAWN Jenkins. Taylor Rapp's a hell of a pick here. 2 interceptions, 58 solo tackles this year. He's been so solid for the Rams, it's not even funny. 100 total tackles in his rookie season, 2 interceptions. Second season, 44 total tackles, a little bit of down year, still got an interception. 2021, 94 total tackles and 4 interceptions. Passes deflected, 6. This year, 92 total tackles and 2 interceptions and 1 fumble recovery. I mean, he's a very solid safety that I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on him. A lot of people are sleeping on him, in my opinion, because he deserves to be mentioned as one of the top safeties in this free agency, because the Rams are kind of tough on cap space as well, and in a team that needs safeties, Taylor Rapp looks like a very good option. Now we went on to Jesse Bates. Seen a lot of people say that Jesse Bates is probably the best fit for Jacksonville. I agree. He's also going to cost a lot. Let's be honest. He's going to cost a lot. He'd make the biggest difference, 100%. He'd make the biggest difference. Him, RAYSHAWN, and Cisco would be a pretty good trio of cornerbacks, but will it happen? I think this is the least likely to happen. I don't think Jacksonville's going to make a big splash like that this year. I feel like if they're going to make a big splash this offseason, it's going to be via trade. I don't even think the Jags should trade their first-round pick this year, but what do I know? So, those are some options, free agents. If I had to bet, Byron Murphy Jr. and Taylor Rapp would be my 2 favorites to take, simply because, as of right now, we're uncertain who's re-signing. Byron Murphy Jr., good inside corner to have, and Taylor Rapp, a great free safety. I feel like he's going to play really well on this team with this defense. So, that's going to do it for my free agency outlook. If you want a video on potential trades Jacksonville could do, I might do that. I'm not really good with whole trades or whatever. Heard some rumors about T. Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins. I don't even want to get into that right now. But, yeah, that's my free agency outlook. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe if you are new. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.